I just really love this idea of everybody can be creative.
Definitely think being able to tap into our creativity also flourishes and nourishes the feminine side, which is so nice because we need that.
I know. Welcome back and happy Tuesday, turkeys. How long have we known each other?
We've known each other for 2 decades.
I am not apologizing for who I am or what I like or the people that I love.
How do I be a wife? How do I be a mom? And how do I be myself in all of that? You didn't see that coming, did you?
Hello and welcome back. Happy Tuesday.
Good morning, Turkeyverse.
Well, in this version of the multiverse, we are, I've been trying to figure out how to introduce this to the masses of 5 people. I don't know about you, Kayla, but I've just been needing like a creativity bump, or I just feel stuck in the mud of life and work schedules changing, and I'm having a hard time working in my creative practices and feeling inspired. So I was needing some kind of what's the right word? Not insertion. Inappropriate. Booster, maybe? That has some connotations nowadays. I just needed an injection, an infusion of creativity, inspiration. And I'd heard of this book called Big Magic, and it's by Elizabeth Gilbert, which I guess people might know her because she wrote Eat, Pray, Love, or that's like her story or something.
She mentioned it, and I'm like, did she just say what I think she said? And I'm like, that was a huge freaking book and movie.
And I think she actually did that in real life. I don't know. I did not. I think a lot of people come upon this Big Magic book via Eat, Pray, Love. I've never read it or seen the movie. I heard about this from a different podcaster, like creativity person, and it was on my to read list. So then I snagged you in and was like, hey, let's read this. But I'm telling the listeners this because we're not doing a book breakdown. We're not going to read you a summary of the chapter or anything like that. But what's cool about the book is it's each chapter, and it's fairly short, but it's laid out thematically. And the whole thing revolves around creativity and being inspired and maybe the barriers to living a creative life. And I don't know, the theme seemed perfect for me to gather some inspiration, and the themes are easy for us to talk about each week just in our own personal lives. So if you want to read along, you can, but you could literally jump in any day of the week. It's not really sequential. It's not going to build. So we're not doing another book series, but we are going to let ourselves be inspired. And basically that's me saying that's my inspiration behind my inspiration.
That's the credit behind the conversations we're going to have over the next couple weeks. Because, I do like how she breaks it down into themes. And it's so relatable to our personal lives. We don't have to dive into the chapter. We can just talk about how it's relevant in our own personal lives. I think that'll be good.
And I'm excited. Well, okay, so here's my little sprinkling of secrets for the listeners. What we're hoping to do is talk about how creativity has been a feature of our lives, why we think it's important, what the barriers have been. Obviously, this podcast has been a major creative venture for both of us, and I can't necessarily speak for Kayla, but it's been so nice to just have a hobby and to have an outlet and to just have something that's mine, especially when I'm an employee. And so I don't really have that in my job space, which is just what it is. Anyway, so I love all of that. And I just, like I said, I need a little infusion. I need a little beep of something. But this also is a great opportunity for us to scour for other creative people and other creative outlets. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, putting it out there, I'm hoping to do some interviews with some other people and talk about how they incorporate creativity into their life, whether it is their professional job that they make money off of, or if it's something that they do as a side hobby or a side hustle or something that they do to keep themselves sane. So I'll be looking for those opportunities. I have a few in mind that I've tentatively lined up. If you're listening and you're interested in sharing or being interviewed, reach out because we'd love to talk to you. I just really love this idea of everybody can be creative, and we can get into what we think creativity means and all of that. Excuse me. But the more I talk to people at work and just in life, you find out that people all have these little hobbies or these interests or these things that they do, even if they're working a traditional 9-to-5. So I think part of my goal, at least with this, is not only for me to be inspired and for us to sort of reorient around creativity and why it's important and why we want to have that practice or that skill or that something in our life, I also really want to highlight the ways in which other people do that and the different avenues of creativity, and that it doesn't all have to look like the highbrow fine arts. Like, this is something that's accessible to everyone.
At one point, because I've listened and dabbled a little bit, and she says something like, no one should compare like master level art to like a hobby art. She said it much more gracefully than I did. But it's so true, because in my whole life, creativity was like you had to be an artist, or you had to like, really, it was just like drawing and painting and like poetry, which I don't know why that was the boundaries of what I found was creative. But it's funny now being older. And you're right, like talking to other people, and people have like their fishing hobbies and they get all into it and they like to lure their things a certain way. And I'm like, I don't know, like I feel like that could be creative in its own way. Like doing something like this is totally a creative outlet for us, which I freaking love. The actual planning, the brainstorming, the talking, the editing, like it's all very creative and fun. And just like little things. I don't know. It's just cool to kind of see as we've gotten older how creativity can mush out of our little holes, like you've said, because it is kind of hard when you do have a 9 to 5 or you have a family. And for me, like to have a kid, but still be able to do stuff to fill my cup. I don't think being creative means you have to make money on it, but I think it has to fill your cup up.
Yeah.
But it's cool if it makes you money. Podcast world. Let's come on YouTube. Put us up in the algorithm a little bit more. Just saying.
So true. No, dude, it's so true. I want to, before I get too far ahead of myself, I do want to just say I'm looking forward to highlighting the creativity in others and appreciating the different things that people are interested in, because people are interesting if you give them space to talk. But I will, just for the sake of giving the author her dues, touch on what the themes are just real quick so people kind of know where we're going. So, like I said, every chapter is a theme. She dives in, and then it's a great discussion point for us to talk about just those themes within our own lives. But let's see. I listed them for myself. First one that we'll explore will be courage, and then one chapter is called enchantment, which I'm really excited about because it just sounds whimsical. But then permission, persistence, trust, and divinity. And I know where we're going in this whole thing, which is going to be sort of creativity as a spiritual practice, which is something I've been really just interested in diving into. So I'm really looking forward to exploring what some of these things mean in my own life and how it manifests for me. And anyway, so that's where we are. That's why I'm excited about it. And I think you sort of touched on this, but do you have further thoughts on what creativity means to you?
Not really. I just don't think it's as cookie cutter as you think it is. Like, I feel like if something gives you joy, and you're kind of in flow state, whatever that looks like, I feel like that's a way to be creative. And even to your point, like spiritual creativity, again, I would never think like journaling or meditating or going for a walk in nature could be considered creative. But I think if you put yourself in the right headspace and utilize it like that, it could totally be that for somebody.
Yeah. Was pondering this, and it's funny how the chips always align divinely, or however you want to look at it. But we did our whole Jordan Peterson book breakdown, which took me on a tangent of chaos versus order, and then his explanation of masculine versus feminine. And I sort of feel like creativity is stepping into that sort of more chaotic realm where there's open possibilities, which again, he had talked about was represented by what's the right word? Femininity, not women. But if you're talking about the balance of feminine and masculine within each person and chaos and order, he talked a lot about how chaos and femininity and chaos, femininity were represented equally or similarly in literature, ancient literature, like the black snake, my half of a black snake on my arm. And also when he talks about femininity being something that creates, like, if you look at it symbolically, literally women create life. So sort of that whole energy, but then the vulnerability of your feminine energy opening up to the universe or being available to receive divine inspiration. Is this making sense? So this was the whole like track that I was sort of thinking of. And I have identified for myself, I'm super comfortable operating in a masculine energy space, and I've been wanting to cultivate more of the feminine energy in my life. Just again, vulnerability, being okay with the unknown and stepping into uncertainty, managing chaos, having that balance of chaos and order. I can definitely be too much order and then be a self-tyrant. So it's also cool to me that that creativity feels like a piece of that femininity or that feminine energy and a piece of chaos, or that you have to be willing to step into those spaces to access creativity more completely. And what you were saying too, just it almost seems like if you're doing a project or you're in a creative space that you do get into a flow, and it seems like you tap into something that was already out there. It seems like you're accessing something outside of yourself. And I just keep going back to that. That's a vulnerable thing to do, and those take risks. I don't know. The timing is just cool for me. So it seems perfectly aligned with the journey that I'm on for myself to try to find a little bit more balance and to grow in this new way. And this seems like the perfect way to challenge myself, if you will, and sort of step out into more of those qualities or more of the unknown.
Well, and it's funny because you said tapping into something outside of yourself. I thought you were going to say within yourself. Because sometimes I feel like it is already there and we just don't even know it, or like we've suppressed it. But it's so true. I feel like for both of us, we step into our masculine energy well and can handle shit. And our jobs kind of require that energy out of us more. And so it is nice to kind of come back to the balance, but it's hard. It's like when you're in that all day and then you come home and you still have, home chores to do and dinner to make and things to get done, and you're still like in go, go, go list mode. It's easy to forget to kind of, in my head, femininity and creativity means kind of slowing down too. Cause like if you're in a flow state, you're not having a rush. Like it's not a rushy feeling. So I 100% agree. I did not travel on that same path you did, but I think the connection is totally there with like the Jordan Peterson stuff, chaos versus order, and bringing in that feminine energy. Wow. Okay. And I definitely think being able to tap into our creativity also flourishes and nourishes the feminine side, which is so nice because we need that.
I know. I really am trying to learn how to step into a kinder, gentler space.
So hard when you just want to tell someone off.
And to be able to access it and have it be equally as strong and available to me, so that I have both available, because just like you said, I've overstrengthened my order. And definitely I agree with you. I think we all have the ability to be creative inside of us, and we have that divine inspiration inside of us. There's something when you hit an idea, and actually, because I'm working my way through the book. When we get to the enchantment time, that's kind of the theme that we'll center around. But I really do sometimes feel like creativity is something divine or other, or the ideas are. So it's sort of like there's something inside you that links up with something that's outside of you, and then you get into that flow state where you're kind of creating and you lose track of time because you're inspired. And they talked you guys, if you've been listening, have heard me talk about The Artist Way before, because I never shut the fuck up about that book either. But she also very much was a proponent of the idea that there's a thing inside you that connects with whatever the thing is outside of us that's bigger than ourselves, and the linking of that is kind of what inspiration comes out of.
Totally. No, that makes sense. It reminds me of how you feel like that gut intuition feeling. It's not coming, like it's coming from inside, but it's like there's something above you and around you and not seeing, that's like sending that message of whatever that intuition feeling is. I feel like that's the same kind of linking situation you're talking about. So I can see it being outside of yourself.
And it, just like you were saying, it does seem like something where you kind of have to be quiet. You have to quiet the outside noise and the internal buzzing and be present with yourself. And then again, be willing to be vulnerable and step out into something new to create. So it's definitely a good challenge for me, for my personality, to work on this. So I'm excited. And to what creativity looks like, just what you were saying, I also my whole life thought that to do art or to be creative meant you had to do the high arts. like drama and music and what's it called? Painting, drawing, all of those things, which obviously are creative ventures. But I have realized that even just with my job, that you can find creativity in the way that you decide to solve a problem. It's just anytime you access that flow state, that inspiration, that you step out on a limb and try to do something different or brainstorm something. So shout out to all of my nerds in the world. But here are some examples that I've found in my life they were aha moments for me, like, oh, this is creativity too. So just like I said, using a new piece of technology or a new app or discovering a new way to do some type of task can be creative. Organizing an Excel sheet.
I was just going to say that. Figuring out how you want it laid out, because there could be so many different ways you could do it.
And doing all of that to solve a problem and tapping into that space. For the example of my neighbor painting your house, I mean, he sits out there with his book of inspiration and flips through pages and does color swatches and listens to 80s music. You wouldn't, people wouldn't maybe think about that, but his home remodeling and his house painting and all the stuff that he does is such a creative art. Redoing furniture in the case of my sister-in-law.
I was even just saying like home projects, but yes, the actual furniture piece.
She puts stuff together in such a cool way and refinishes tops. And if you asked her, I don't know that she would say that it's art, but it definitely is. And it's definitely a creativity practice. And I mean, I even like to paint, but it's not something I'm good at. I would never sell them. It's not something like, oh, I'm a painter. But
I think you're really good.
Thank you. I'm uncomfortable with compliment. Well, no, but it's just not something that I would ever want to explore as a full-time job or anything of that nature. But that could be a fun thing. Like cooking.
Yeah.
If you're doing it from a let's try this creative space versus a rigid, regimented recipe. Yes. I would say you with your sourdough babies.
I agree.
Have access to some of that. Writing. And I also think people forget, yes, playing music, but listening to music can be too. Get you into that state.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say dancing, and not like professional dancing, but even just like putting music on in the kitchen and just slightly moving your body a little bit while you're cooking dinner or whatever.
Even working out, like planning workouts and just, I don't know. I want to give people their due and encourage everybody to look at what am I doing in my life that I enjoy and when do I give myself that free space where we can kind of brainstorm or just hang out in the unknown and just let things come to us, which getting back to the artist way is the purpose of morning pages, sitting down and writing, just free flow stream of consciousness for 10 or 15 minutes every morning. Again, if writing's not your thing, then maybe that doesn't work. Maybe you turn on your voice memo and you talk out loud to yourself for 15 minutes, but just kind of letting things come to you or meditating. Anyway, just freeing things up where you open yourself up to whatever divine inspiration is out there. And I think a lot of us are probably like you and I, where they just weren't giving themselves their dues. How many how many times have you said I'm not a creative person? I think all of us
100
have.
times. Yeah.
Just because we don't do something that's fancy.
Yeah, because I don't live in New York with a muck and a canvas in my hand. Like
exactly.
A smuck, not a muck.
A muck. Or like all the people who do crafts, like arts and crafts and crocheting and knitting. And just because that's not going to be, featured at the Met or whatever the hell, the Louvre, it doesn't mean you're not a creative person and that you're able to do that. And if it's something that's kind of not a skill that you have, I would argue that all of us have the ability to not to train, but to expand that part of our minds and to find the thing that gets us into that flow state.
Yes. Even like scrapbooking, or you could even do painting and not know what to paint. So you do a paint by numbers, which I'm currently doing. Yeah. And it is so fun. I'm not the one deciding where to put my brush, but it's fun to just sit down and be in a flow state of like painting within the system that I've been given. So if you're not like, wanting to create something from the ground up, you can still be creative within whatever thing you're doing. So that's been fun.
Dude, my aunt has a sticker book that's similar to a paint by number.
Oh.
So it looks just like the paint by number, and it has the
Yeah.
numbers, and then it has all the little stickers, sort of like a puzzle piece even. And you pick them off and you put them into the corresponding spot.
Do they make a full type of pictures? Like
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
make a
yeah.
picture out of little tiny pictures, but it's tiny stickers?
It's just like how a paint by number is a bunch of little colors that makes a bigger
Whoa.
picture. But instead of using
That's
paint,
kind of
they're just
cool.
pre-cut stickers.
That's pretty cool.
But same thing. If you stay in your head because you're trying to make something brand new, if you doing something that gets you out of your analytical brain and into the moment and into your physical body, whatever avenue your personality needs to get you there, I want to celebrate all the avenues. That's what I'm trying to say. I want to hear everybody's avenues. I want to hear how you access it, look at your own life and figure that out, and then look at how you can walk that out and use it, like you said, to fill your cup, because we don't all need to sit here and be master painters, or we're not all going to be stand-up comedians. But if you enjoy writing, or if you enjoy comedy, or, whatever your thing is, find a way that you can push that out in your life and get into a little bit of chaos, I guess.
I love
My tip of the week. Do you have any closing remarks before we cut out for this morning?
I just think it's important. And you don't think it's important because there's all these other things that seem more important. But like we've been saying, I think it fills your cup up. And you know what they say, if you fill your cup up, you can fill others. But it's so true. Like, how can you show up your best self if maybe you aren't as fulfilled as you could be? So it's something not to ignore. And life's too short, and who cares? And also, if you do it, you don't have to share with anyone if you don't want to.
Yes.
Like, you don't have to make something and like put it out in the world. You can just do it and keep it for yourself. Like social media these days, you don't have to post anything about it. You can just do it. I mean, we're posting this, but this is different. This is a podcast.
I 100% agree, and I am looking forward. I'm looking forward to growing the side of myself. I'm looking forward to celebrating other ways that people have these little secret talents and things that they do, and just challenging ourselves via Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. So join us next week, and we're going to talk about courage, because we all know that getting started can be scary.
Scary, squarey. Love you, bye.
Love you, bye. Bum, 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 bum.